Welcome to Wealth Lab. My name is Rudolph, and we're so glad that you are here for the third edition of Wealth Lab. And I couldn't think of a better place to be on a Wednesday night than right here at Rooftop on Bree. And can you believe it? The wind is actually not pumping tonight. So it's clearly not just another Wednesday. Looking around the room, it's so incredible to see how Wealth Lab and the community that we're focusing on is growing. And that's the point, community. We're building a community of founders, entrepreneurs, and business owners who connect around the excitement, the complexity, the anxiety, the frustration, and the incredible high of that moment when you realize it's actually working. It's a space where we celebrate the breakthroughs and we never airbrush the grit. We're here for the unfiltered stories of the build. It's where we move from maybe this can work to this is going to be massive. Tonight, we're diving into what it actually takes to build these empires. We've brought together the minds behind two of South Africa's most exciting brands, Plato Coffee and Burn Studios, to pull back the curtain on how they've scaled. To lead this conversation, I'd love to introduce you to our moderator for the evening, Danielle Hubert, or Danny for short. Danielle is a builder at heart. She has a track record of driving growth at giants like Capitec and Uber, and she's now the Chief Product Officer at Fibertime, an incredible business providing uncapped fiber internet to township communities from as little as R5 a day. She operates at the intersection of strategy and innovation and has the unique talent for solving the kind of complex problems that we're here to discuss tonight. Danny, the stage is yours.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It is wonderful to have you all here tonight. I'm very excited about tonight because it's my honor to actually interview two of my absolute favorite brands in South Africa. And not just because I use their products. I don't think I own any other tights in my closet. And I work in Stellenbosch, so Plato is not just mine, but our entire office's daily coffee stop. But it's two brands that I am just excited about what they've built. And these are two brands that build businesses in probably two of the most competitive industries out there. I mean, if someone told you, start a coffee shop or start an activewear brand a few years ago with like Vida, Seattle, Bootlegger, Woolies, etc., and then on the activewear side, you have Nike, Puma, and all these brands. And even despite of it, they said, yes, let's do this. So that's what we'll be discussing tonight. But before we get there, I would love to introduce and take a minute to introduce the panel to you. So first up, we have Stefan from Plato. So Stefan Bredel is a dad of 4 boys, husband to 1 remarkable woman, and a builder of brands, cafes, and the occasional bit of controlled chaos. As CEO of Plato Coffee, he has grown what has started as a humble coffee container into a network of more than 130 cafes across South Africa. Along the way, he's learned how to blend design, operations, and strategy into something that, on a good day, hums along. And when he doesn't, he makes sure it's fixed before the coffee gets cold. Stefan loves building from scratch, especially brands that feel human, work beautifully, and scale without losing their soul. Fueled by caffeine, creativity, and purpose, he's constantly connecting dots and finding ways to connect them. Naturally curious and self-confessed sound system enthusiast, he's always dreaming about what's next, without ever losing sight of what matters most: people, purpose, and great coffee. Welcome.
Dankie. Was het ek?
Net waar jy wil. Okay, next up we have Andriana, who is one of the founders of Burnt. Andriana is a co-founder alongside her husband Pierre and creative director of Burn Studios. She's a mom, a passionate runner, and deeply driven by the intersection of performance and confidence in your everyday life. the reason for founding Burnt, and something that is present in her everyday life. Her mission is to create products that are not only beautifully designed and fashionable, but genuinely empower people to move better, train harder, and ultimately reach their goals. Burnt already has 16 stores nationally. Welcome. And finally, but last but not least, we have Rudolf. Rudolf is from the Firecrest group and is actually a director at Firecrest. He is a CFP professional and most notably South Africa's 24-25 Financial Planner of the Year. As an official ambassador for the financial planning profession, he has spent over a decade helping entrepreneurs, families navigate the complexities of wealth, turning the messy middle of business into a roadmap for long-term freedom. A keynote speaker and student of financial psychology, Rudolf looks beyond the spreadsheets to the mindset of high performance. He's on a mission to simplify the complex and ensuring every founder's wealth is aligned with their purpose. For Rudolf, the goal isn't just a bigger balance sheet, it's the ultimate freedom to design a life that lasts. Rudolf, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, like hier sit ek dan nou tussen die trots van Pretoria. I'm not from Pretoria now, I'm a bit sad.
Waar was jy?
Kaapstad.
Ons praat Afrikaans, hoor.
Yeah, so there's subtitles here.
I only speak English in self-defense.
Okay, so let's get started. Founding a business is not easy. We all know that. And here you are, you both walked into industries that were full, that were saturated. Stefan, you founded coffee shops, and coffee shops were everywhere already. Adriana, Adidas, Nike, Puma, they all existed. So we wanted to start with the question of why. Why? Why did you decide to start your business in a time when there was already something in that industry? Coffee shops were chasing the same malls, and you decided to chase experience and community. Where did our favorite coffee shop start, and why?
I'm first, okay. Yes, it's a long story, but I think at heart, I'm an entrepreneur, so coffee was just the vehicle for me. My brother Petrus, who's our, call it coffee chief, he's more the coffee guy. But basically what happened, I was an Imagineer, full-time Imagineer at King Price Insurance in Pretoria. And there I created a cafe, Moonshot Cafe. And that's when I realized, okay, yes, coffee is actually, yeah, it could work, right? But without all the fluff. So no waiters, no cheese, no chicken, like nobody's stealing them also. And so the idea was, I always talk about, I'm going to try and keep it short, I just want to give context. There's a bunch of stuff that I learned in my entrepreneurial journey, which was like, okay, not that, not big shops, not big malls, because of a bunch of reasons. So the idea was to create Plato, very small. So if it doesn't work, it's, okay, next thing, right? So then I approached my brother Piet, and I said, listen, here's the plan. Let's open 100 shops. That was the pitch. And he said, well, on a
Start small.
well, on an Excel sheet, it's easy. I thought like a shop can do 10K net, and you go 1, 5, 10, 50, 100. Okay, we make $1 million a month, and we split the profit. It's easy. It doesn't work like that. But I think what happened is I just saw like a gap where a bunch of shops had all this overheads, and everybody was in big malls and stuff, and I thought like, well, coffee, we're not just selling a commodity. It's not like insurance or tires or whatever. It's got a lot of relational capital. And I thought, well, imagine you take very small shops, so you lower the risk, and you take it to communities, right? And you become entrenched in communities and create hubs for communities to connect. That was the idea and the model. So I thought the risk is low enough. We're doing small. So the first shop was literally built on, if we have to rent everything, and it was in a container. So it was like, in a way, if it doesn't work, like, we just don't rent it anymore, right? So that was the model. But yeah, that's basically how it started. I thought like there's a gap. Everybody's doing the same thing. I went very minimal. I wanted to create the R of coffee shops, and luckily it worked. But in the back of my mind, I created it small enough from a risk point of view that if it doesn't work, it's okay. I can use a different vehicle again.
So before we move to Andriana, what coffee do you order at Plato?
I'm like in between, depending on my mood. No, it's usually a flat white or a piccolo. Yeah, a piccolo is a small flat white, and then a Plato is a big flat white. If the guys don't know, yeah. But it's the same ratio. So we created big drinks like a cortado. Aristotle is a big cortado. But anyway, so that's my answer.
Andriana, I mean, you are an athlete, a runner, but you just wanted to look absolutely stunning doing it. So when did your passion become a business idea?
Is it on? Okay. So my husband was my boyfriend at this time. This was 2018. And he's like entrepreneurial in his like mergenbeen. Every single cell of his body is entrepreneurial, and I always knew that we will start a business together. At this point in 2018, both him and I were working in Botswana. We managed one of those luxury game lodges, and we were kind of at this point where, we were done with Botswana. We were either going to take the money that we saved from working there and start our own business, or we are going to go into the workforce, get experience, and then maybe try something a little bit down the line. And we just started to like think of different ideas. And one thing that we just couldn't get past was a personal need. It was bigger from my side at that point than his. That's why we started with the women's wear. I just did not feel beautiful in activewear, and it held me back. I have goals that I want to reach. I want to run fast. I want to feel good. And the activewear available to me at that point was purely functional. It wasn't really beautiful. This was like that floral three-quarter tight era. Yeah, remember that? Okay, that was that era. And I just think I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel beautiful in activewear. I absolutely love fashion. It is one of the things that is just ingrained into my life. I love running. I'm very active, both myself and Pierre. And we just thought, why make these two things mutually exclusive? You know, all of us are athletes in some sense, whether it is just moving your body, going to Pilates 3 times a week, or training for a marathon or half marathon or whatever it is. But we are not all purely athletes. We don't spend 9 to 5 during our day just working out. Our day-to-day life is not exclusive to our active life. So bring those two together. So we wanted to create functional fashion. We wanted to make sure that whatever you put onto your body will look absolutely fine when you go, or like, not fine, beautiful. When you go for coffee with your friends or you're running errands, you feel put together, you feel like you've dressed up for the day. But chuck off your blazer, put on your trainers, go for a run in that same outfit that you spent your whole day in. So we wanted to make sure that we are not only high-performance activewear, but we are not athleisure, because this was also the era of like athleisure, where you had yoga pants that you can like, yes, wear throughout the day, but we wanted to make performance wear that is beautiful, that you can absolutely wear in with your like day-to-day closet as well. So we wanted to bring those two things together, and I think the phrase that sums it up beautifully, and this is basically our North Star at Burnt, is where performance meets fashion every day. So whether it is in the months or weeks working up to like race day, or it is on race day, or it is just moving your body in a gentle way that day, whatever that day is for you, or whatever movement you need to do that day, that is where we bring fashion and performance together.
Amazing. And I mean, I don't get this chance very often, so I have to say thank you from all the women here, because finally we look stunning in a tight. You know,
you're most
before
welcome.
That we did not, so thanks.
Thanks for killing the floral.
Thanks. We are all very thankful.
It looked like that, you know, the toilet paper then. Remember that?
Twin savers.
The wraps over the
you
toilet
didn't,
paper.
Like, bring the
My
mic
Oma had
to,
those
you
ones,
didn't
yeah.
bring a mic to your mouth at the beginning of that sentence. I just like heard the weirdest sentence of my entire life, and I couldn't understand why you thanked me. But anyway, you're most welcome.
Okay, so I mean, an idea is amazing, but we know that the first few months of starting a business is not easy at all. Andriana, you mentioned you guys were in Botswana. I'm not sure if you actually started it in Botswana, but I know at some point you had to like drive somewhere to get signal, to talk to suppliers, etc. So just give us a quick, catch up of like, what was the first 6 months to a year like, not the real version, not the real like Instagram real version, but the real version of it.
Okay, so we got this idea of, beautiful, functional, fashionable activewear, and we quit our jobs in Botswana, and we basically, so just to give you context, working in Botswana, we worked for 3 months on, 1 month off. In the 3 months on, you worked every single day. So we worked in the middle of the Delta. You had to fly with a little prop plane to get there. Super, super hard work. But then for that month off, you could go wherever you wanted. But for those 3 months that you were working, you didn't spend any money. We had our accommodation, our food, everything sorted. So we basically saved money for our whole salary for 3 months. And then 1 month you go on vacation, you spend everything. But we basically saved a year's worth of salary, small salary, and then decided that we are going to invest this into ourselves. So my parents live on a farm in Limpopo. It seems like we love being far away from the city. My parents live on a farm in Limpopo, and they said, okay, we can stay with them for 3 months, not worry about like rent or things like that, and just take all the time we need to basically get this thing off the ground. About like 2 weeks into this, us staying on the farm, there was this big storm and the signal tower blew over. And the world we're living at the moment, no one's fixed it to this day. This was like 8 years ago. So we don't have signal on the farm, okay? So starting an online business with no signal is impossible. So what we basically did is drove on the gravel road towards the closest town, which is like 70 kilometers away, and we found this one tree where there's signal. Okay, so you'd have to like park the car next to the signal. We took a little flask of coffee and put our laptops there and hotspotted from our phones and everything, and like send your emails and make your orders and design your things and set up your website and everything. And then we drive back the hour to the farm as soon as our laptops died and we ran out of coffee. No Plato on the side of the road, my friend. And then alternatively, if we had to spend a whole day working, we would drive to this little town called Nylstroom, take our own little Wi-Fi router. There wasn't free Wi-Fi at that time in that town. We would plug it in next to our table. I have a photo of this sitting in the spur, plugged in our own Wi-Fi, and sat there and worked for the whole day, and then tried to get as much work done as we possibly could, and then we'd venture back to the farm again for an hour and a half's drive on the gravel road, and then try and do everything else that you don't necessarily need Wi-Fi for. So we operated like this for 3 months while we were living with my parents, and in this time we had to set up our website, we had to register our business, get our bank account, design, get samples, all of that. I mean, where do you deliver samples if you don't have an address? Like, we made friends with the lady at the postnet in Nylstroom. I still drive past that postnet every day, and not every day, every like, couple of months, whatever, and like salute this little postnet that helped us start our business. And every now and then we'd get a little email saying that, or an SMS saying that your package has arrived, and we'll go to the postnet and pick it up, and then hope these samples are the one that's actually going to make them. But yeah, so it was like this for 3 months at a time, and when you're so in the thick of it, of like, what am I doing? How am I like trying to build this business? The only thing you can literally hold on to is this belief that it's going to work. I remember telling my best friend, she was like, what are you doing now after Botswana? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to let you in on a secret. We're starting an activewear brand. And she's like, ha! And And I'm like, okay, you know, that's not necessarily the response that I thought, but, you know, despite hearing that and her not believing in me at all, we like ventured and just had this really big conviction of we're going to make this work. Eventually, we moved down to Cape Town and we got this apartment in the CBD next to the Parliament, which ended up being such a blessing because I ended up living with my sister-in-law and another friend of mine. We were 4 people living in a 3-apartment flat with this storeroom being our warehouse and working and living and squashing everything in there, and like the couriers coming up to our apartment and getting packages and like sending it out from there, and people coming to try on product in my bathroom, and I'm so embarrassed because it's so cheap and everything. It was just this phase of my life where everything was so chaotic, but we had this dream that we're going to make it. And we just held on to it, and it's we just believed in what we were doing so much that all of this noise and all of this complexity and all of this uncertainty and like the Nikes and Adidas and everything on your Instagram page, like you think, how the hell am I going to make this work? But we just did. We kept on going, and I mean, my husband is an incredible businessman. Bezigheidsman, entrepreneur, and I am incredibly creative. I'm lucky that I can draw and things like that. I never studied design or anything, but I designed all our products. And yeah, it was just the first 6 months was basically delusional self-belief. I guess that's what it is.
I love that. That is definitely the quote of the evening. So I think for you it was similar in the sense that you started your business in 2019. And if everyone remembers correctly, 3 months later, COVID happened. So without a lot of momentum, international pandemic hit us. So how did you manage that, and how did you stick to your, Andriana, say that again?
Delusional self-belief.
Delusional self-belief.
Yeah, I also say to a lot of people, like, the more I do business and the more, yeah, I realized that I was just dumb enough. Like, I'm dumber than the average person too. So we're dumb. We're dumber than you guys. But no, for me it was a bit different. So I had this massive, I won't go into detail, but before Kim Price I had this green consulting firm, did a bunch of projects for Eskom, flew in a lot of lights and heat pumps and stuff from China, and then Eskom decided 2 weeks, cheers guys, the rebate budget is gone. So I had a lot of debt and stuff going into King Price, and so for me, I didn't have the luxury to say, listen, I'm going to jump, because at that stage I was married, I got 2 boys, I've got 4 now, building the nation. So for me, it was a bit different. So I knew I needed a jockey. So I approached Peter in middle of 2018 with this idea, 100 shops, wada. And then, so what happened is, I'm a design and marketing guy. Sorry. So I told him, listen, I don't know anything about coffee. So from the start, we had a very design and user experience first approach. It was almost like, Piet, I'm backing myself to create a nice brand. I'll make the spaces nice. Please make sure the coffee is nice. It was almost like that. So what was nice is he was operationally, so we opened 2019 December. Also blessing us, guys, we also only had 1 shop. If we had 10 by that time, I probably won't sit here. We would have sat here. Sorry, Afrikaans. Remember, ek speak dommer as julle, onthou. So for me, it was a bit different. So I had to stick in corporate. Because a lot of people are like, listen, start a coffee shop. Like, 1 coffee shop isn't going to sustain a family and my brother. You need 100. 4 boys, remember. Yeah. No. So he ran the operational stuff and he figured the coffee out in a way, and I stayed in corporate. So I only jumped ship beginning of 2022. So I did all the marketing and the design of the shop, etc. But yeah, the first 6 months was cool in a way because yes, we opened December, had to close, and this is quite a cool story. And then I think it was March or April, we had to close for a month. And then level 4, we had an informal trader's license or a spaza shop. We were a spaza shop basically. because we were on Chuane's grounds, next to a memorial garden, or a cemetery, basically. Best chance of success. But so, what happened is we had to close, and then we could open level 4, and then we were the only coffee shop in Pretoria open. So all the coffee shop phoning me like, "Are you open?" I'm like, "I'm a spaza shop." So we could open, and actually what happened then was, we saw like everybody think when you see a brand, they're like, no, these guys had it figured out from the start. No, it's not the case. We saw at that moment that coffee's got this incredible superpower to connect people. And that became our DNA in a way. It's 2 neighbors who haven't seen each other in 4 years. Now they like standing in the line. Remember, between 7 and 9, you can come out. We had to like take danger tape, almost like the floral, like tape, and people have to stand in a queue. So the 6 months was the first 6 months was that. So at least I had an income. My brother did that, and then we opened Rustenburg, our second shop, in June in COVID. So yeah, hectic. Obviously, figured it out, but that's the reason why our slogan is coffee sculpted, community included. Coffee sculpted part is we didn't know how to do coffee. We sculpted it like we liked it. So we tell Afrikaans people at least, like we've got a very sweet tooth. Like we like a melk tertjie, you can see, melk tertjie, krimpvarkies, malva pudding. So we created a sweet coffee. So if you drink Plato, it's a very sweet coffee. You don't have to put in sugar. But anyway, so that first 6 months I think was it was fun because Piet, I always tell the story, Piet loves fly fishing. I hate fly fishing. Like I hate any type of fishing. But somebody who likes fly fishing is very meticulous. Oor daai groot Engelse woorde. So he was like, from the start, so Piet is the reason why Plato Coffee tastes nice. I'm the guy who did the branding. So I always like to, when people say the brand is cooler than the product, I'm like, dankie. And he's like, but anyway, I think we found but yeah, the first 6 months was very, explorative. Is that an English word?
Great word.
It was fun, yeah.
Well, such great insights from both of you. Thank you so much. And Rudolf, I think that brings me to you. They both started a business with very little capital in the beginning. And I think for everyone here or everyone that might listen to this afterwards, like how? What would be your advice, for starting a business? Stefan had to work to fund it. Andriana and Pierre had to strap up and put everything that they have into this business. But what is the smart way to start a business? Is there a smart way? And how can you think about a runway,
I think both of you mentioned it, so if you didn't catch it, I'll recap. So you didn't jump ship from your salary gig to support your family. You did it on the side, which is a very good way to start something if you don't know what the success factor will be. In the same vein, you also started small so you can fail small, which is also helpful. I have this great grand vision, but then you need to have a practical next step to say, okay, how do I test it? And you did the same. You actually saved up a year's worth of salary. And I don't think we always necessarily think about those things when we start a business. We think it's got to start big with funding, with some kind of VC firm with this grand idea. I think it's just making sure that this vision that I have, this passion that I want to pursue is actually doable. People they're going to care about the product. They're going to invest in the product. They're going to use it, love it, and need it. And then I start small, because I think we had a bit of a catch up before the evening started, and we just spoke about a lot of brands that we know from our studies days, brands that we all are wearing in this room now, and it started on campus for some of them. It started with, hey, I've got something cool. I'm studying accounting, but I hate it. So let me make something. Let me figure out something. So there's definitely an element of risk management involved, and these were surefire ways of eliminating that risk. But then it takes some delusional self-belief to say, I'm going to really pursue this thing, and I've got my backing. I can maybe move back in with my parents. So if you're under the age of 30, that's an option to pursue. If you're over the age of 30, it's not fun living with your parents.
Depending on how many kids you have, I think.
Yeah, I think after 3 they'll say no. I don't know. My parents, we've got 2, so they might still say yes. But so and I think it's being just smart about it, if I can call it that way. Just really figuring out what is the worst that can happen and plan around that. Because we don't want to be homeless. That's a really tough place to be. So how do we mitigate some of these bigger risks? And then if you've mitigated those risks through saving, so having an emergency fund, having that war chest. Because I think the other reality of having financial backing, either through family, now that's very rare, or through maybe an investor, very risky because they want to see the upside massively and then they want to control. So also you're giving up a couple of things. But then it's just having that financial backing, because what it allows you to do is to make better business decisions. Because if you're cash strapped and you need to make this next sale to make sure that this dream can continue, you sometimes choose the easiest option, and that's not always the best option. So I think it's just maybe thinking about it carefully, but not too carefully, because then you might never do it. So delusionally, like self-believing, I guess. And then get some mentors. Like actually find some people in this room and just go, okay, you've done it, you're a little bit ahead of me. How the hell did you do it? And that really helps, having a sounding board. People that you can just phone and say, I don't know what I'm doing. You need to help. And it moves the needle significantly.
Could I quickly just say something? When you mentioned saved a year's worth of salary, I just want to clarify that we got 15,000 Rand a month. So we started Burnt with like less than 100,000 Rand.
Between the two of you, 15,000.
Between the two of you, two of us, not you. So basically, like, we saved up a year, but we were coming out of varsity. So what did we didn't get a salary of like 40, 50,000 Rand a month. We got like, I think it was just about minimum wage that we got, but we were just able to save everything up because we didn't have any expenses. And on your point of keeping your job at that point, Pierre actually applied for a second job during that time as well. We moved down to Cape Town. I didn't have like an alternative job. I did Burnt full time, but he took a job at a travel agency, also like pennies that he verdiened. Flip. My English airtime is like running really low at the moment.
Only 40 more minutes to go.
But the thing is, like, that made it work, and we just had that little bit of a like base that we could work from. But you have to make tough choices when you literally like dit is al wat jy het.
No, I think that's so incredible, and I think, Rudolf, you touched on it. I think it's the awareness of the financial implication and managing the risk, but not managing it so tightly that you never take the leap. And I think that's I think for me the takeout from that section.
Yeah, I want to say something on that, because if I tell that this to financial planners or CEOs or whatever, they're like, is je mal? But I mean, we financed our first shop at 36% interest. We're not trust babies. We didn't have extra money. I was very indebted. So for me, it was like, okay, it was 500,000 Rand. So, I mean, what's the worst would could happen? You just lose another 500. But I mean, that's also like, I think you have to be a bit like gutsy or dumb, I guess.
Or a
but
combination of the two.
Yeah,
one is gutsy, one is dumb.
I think a lot of people overanalyze stuff. And then they it doesn't work. I mean, hear this business plan, guys. I want to start a coffee shop out of a container next to a cemetery. You guys think it's gonna, lekker? Who will invest? But
A lot of competition, with a lot of competition.
We'll invest now, but I don't know about then.
No, so, I mean, here you are. You've proved the idea. 6 months, a year in. I think for both brands, I have a bit of a moment where I realized, well, flip, this is a business. I was telling Andriana, I think I was one of their very first customers ever. I still have one of the first Burnt tights that ever came out. I'm a brand or a business enthusiast. So when they launched the business, I was like, oh my word, I know them. I'm so proud of them. I'm just, cute. I'm going to support them. They're like trying something. And then a few months later, I walk in Seam Point and every single person is wearing Burnt. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, they've built a business, they've built a brand to be reckoned with. And the same with Plato. My parents are probably the last adopters of anything. And at some point, my dad was like, he has a weekly coffee date with his grandchildren, they're 4, and at Plato, because the Plato opened next to the school, and they walk, he fetches them, they walk, and they drink a coffee. And it's such an aha moment of, you've proven the concept, right? The idea works, but most businesses fails, not because of the product, because of the messy middle. It is the founders' ability to scale that idea, to build a business. You can't live off one coffee shop. You need to live off 100, So we want to kind of touch on that. How did you take this idea, proven concept, and scaled it, and built brands where the soul, and the culture and the community is so entrenched into it? So, Andriana, maybe you can start. Like, how did Burnt do that?
I think I could probably speak for hours. The messy middle is literally messy. It is, on the one hand, so exciting, and you're so driven, and you're just on this path of growth and everything. And on the other hand, it's so uncertain, because there's a lot of things that you cannot control. There's a lot of things that happen outside of your control, and you just kind of like have to look past it and go for it. I think the moment that I thought, okay, we have something here, is, well, I remember the first time I saw someone in public wearing Burnt. I got so excited. I walked up to this girl and I tapped her on the shoulder, and I didn't know what to say. I'm like, this is me. This is us. And she was just so confused. Like, what do you mean? But anyway, it's when you get to this point where you're almost like calm, in the sense of like, okay, you've restocked your first collection, you have people coming back for your product, you have people asking for more colors, different styles, or whatever it may be, and you literally just see that little bit of a climb. I think we felt that we kind of like, okay, we made it. Was COVID. Was such an interesting time. Pierre could work half time at his other job, so we could spend a lot of time working on Burnt, and a lot of people didn't have to wear workwear, like blazers and things like that, so they opted for activewear. People started taking their health really seriously, and after COVID, we had a little bit of momentum, and we could rent at COVID rates. Obviously, that the property market did its thing for us. We could rent a very small little office just for the 2 of us, and a little warehouse. We had one rack of products, and we could commit to a lease. And we got our first employee, and it was just this moment where, we don't necessarily have to do everything just the 2 of us. We can get some help in, and we can start getting some hands on board. And I think it's a hard, I'm always at a loss of words, to be completely honest, because there's so much that I want to say, so many challenges that you go through, so many questions that you want answered, but you kind of just have to make the decision in the moment. I told Pierre earlier today that I guess when you start out small, you mentioned about starting small and failing small. When you start out small, the decisions that you make are relative small to where you will become. But making one small decision at a time, and it being the right decision, starts to give you the confidence to make the big decisions like we are now. I mean, having to decide whether we can afford a intern, 5 years ago, crunching the numbers, can we pay this really small intern salary? And now, deciding on global expansions and hiring experts in their field and paying the inventory that we have to purchase and the stores that we have to making those decisions are now easier because you had to make the smaller decisions at the beginning, and you just kind of gain confidence as you grow, especially when you don't have a roadmap to go, and you just have to believe in what you're doing, and basically take each challenge as it comes, because no one is going to tell you that COVID is going to hit. No one is going to tell you that there's going to be riots in Durban and you're going to open your store on that side, or no one's going to tell you that, daar kan ek nie aan enige voorbeelde dink nie. But yeah, the messy middle is what basically gives you the confidence to make the harder decisions as your business grows, because the decisions don't become easier. I think the easiest decision to make is actually to start the business. And then the decisions that you make every single day down the line is actually the harder ones that you have to do.
But I think it's so insightful because a lot of the times before you start or when you start, you get so sucked into the big decisions that might come. You almost don't focus on the ones you just have to make today. And I think that's profound.
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically your end result is the compound of the decisions that you make during your day-to-day lives. And some decision might feel small, but it does have a big impact. Or like the compounding small decisions basically build your brand.
Love that. So from Plato's side, I mean, that's really building a franchise model. I think that in itself is an immense challenge. And I think the big challenge with a franchise model is the consistency, like getting the same coffee, the same wherever you order it. But in your case, it's not just the consistency of the product, it's actually the community and the culture, regardless of what Plato you go to. I feel like the barista is my best friend. And now you're sitting at 130 locations and you're getting that right. And that's insane. So how did you get that right?
Stop it. I think our approach, so firstly, I think we were at about 8 shops, everything with debt finance, no investors. And at that moment, we were over-leveraged, groot financial workie. And then we were okay, at that point, it was the end of 2021, and we got enough franchise requests for me to be able to say, okay, Piet, I'm going to jump. We're going to ring fence Plato Coffee franchise, Plato Coffee. You don't have to pay me a salary. And the calculation was I have to sell 1 franchise a month to make up my salary. I did 10 that year, not 12. So we ate some wheat picks and water that year, but it's fine. But I think our approach from the start was to create a big brand feel, but at store level, it still feels independently owned. So our approach, especially in the smaller towns, was we choose community builders. So I always use this example because it's a great example. Mokopane, Potgietersrus, I don't know if you know where that is. Limpopo, jy sal weet, Nelstroom, Pape, represent. But Gerda is the local community builder. She's been a physio for 25 years there. All her kids went through school. So when Gerda opens a Plato, it's much different than some random guy in Cape Town that's got money and opens a Plato in Potgietersrus. So our approach, when people ask me, how do we choose franchisees? We choose people that's already entrenched in their communities, right? And that's when that's almost like the tick box of the community feel, the independently owned. Because people get behind Gerda and then Potties or Mokopane feels it's their Plato. And thanks for coming to us as a small town. So that is on the community side. On a more consistency data side, so we do about, I think, almost 600,000 double shots of espresso a month, just high level. Coffee's got a recipe. Let's say I'm just going to use numbers. We use 20 grams. You have to extract it 30 seconds, right? So I can see every single espresso shot through our company. Yeah, so we've built in a retrofit on our group beds. So if it's over-extracted, usually it's bitter. If it's under-extracted, it's usually acidic. So our parameters, you're not allowed to over-extract by 2 seconds or under-extract by 2 seconds. It's we're the strictest in the world, basically, that's using flow, this company. And we've just said, listen, that's the only way we could get the product right. So it doesn't help you've got the nice community and vibe and baristas, but the coffee tastes like paint stripper. Or burns your tongue every time. So I think it was a combination between getting the brand, the big brand feel, and which is nice is the smaller towns. I know Kimberley. We opened Kimberley before Bloemfontein, and the Bloemfontein people were like, "What the hell doen julle? Ons is groter as Kimberley." And then Kimberley, they almost feel like, "Yes, thanks for thinking of us in a way." And they get behind So you almost get like this big brand feel in a smaller town, and people appreciate it in a way. So I think that was a combination between really looking at, and so the nice thing about Flow, the thing we're using, is we now can see when let's say a shop doesn't hit it, their targets, we now know, okay, but this shop, we need to send a QC. Or we can look at maintenance. This shop has done 100,000 espressos. It needs a service. We can also look at, okay, so we own our own roastery, so we can see this guy ordered 100 kilograms of beans, but he's only extracted 50,000. So we can see, we can then let the franchisee know, listen, somebody's stealing from you. So it was just, I think from Pierre's side, I've always like pushed to let's go big, and he's always been like the more, okay, but the quality needs, and initially it was a big tug of war in a way. But once we implemented that, he was like, okay, gooi milies, ons gaan gaan. So I think that's how we could scale, because in a way, initially we had a lot of corporate stores, so corporately owned stores, right, which you have to manage. Then we realized we started selling some of them, and they'll do 25-30% better, ran by a franchise owner operator, and we were like, flip, okay. So in a way, you're running like a decentralized thing where it's hands-on operators. So we don't even put a manager's salary in our P&L, right? Or we do when we do a prospectus, because the franchisee is the manager, and that's when you really get like that community relational thing when somebody knows your name, the baristas are friendly because you've got a invested hands-on owner-operator, yeah. And so we pivoted a bit, where now we do JVs with partners, where we own 51, they 49, and we'll never own a corporate store 100%, because it doesn't get that independent community feel.
I think you touched on like so many interesting things about the messy middle. And I think what basically stood out to me is the balance that you have to get between putting your community first, creating an incredible product, implementing your systems, managing your finances, building a team, managing that team, and growing and all of that, and doing that at the same time when it's the first time that you're running a business, it's the first time that you're taking on a specific brand, it's the first time that you're actually building something like this. To get that right is quite tough, to make sure that your customers come back because they have a good product, but they also feel part of a community, that they feel that they're getting good service. So your systems have to be great. You need to ensure that they are able to return something easily, that it's not a frustrating, Andriana. Frustrating process, all of that. I think that middle part where you're figuring everything out is like basically ensuring that you spend time on all of these moving parts. And the only way that you can do that is by actually doing it. It's by actually trying different things and actually putting a lot of focus on your customers in 1 week and product in the next and systems in the next, and making sure that none of them fall behind, because losing any of those factors within your business can literally be detrimental. So you have to make sure that you're on top of all of that at the same time. But almost most importantly is your community and your team. I mean, without people within our business, you are absolutely nothing. Without having the most incredible team, I mean, I have so many people of my team here today. Without them, our brand is nothing. Without our customers, our brand is nothing. So like having them at the forefront of every single thing that you do is the most important thing of the business. You can have the most incredible products, but if you treat your customers like they don't matter, they're not going to come back. If you don't make your team believe in your brand and make them love it as much as you do, you're not going to be able to execute what you want to do. So like people in that messy middle is where you invest your time, your money, your energy, everything. Like your people is key.
So that's, I mean, the perfect segue to ask about people, because I think when you start a business, it's first the founders. You guys are heavily invested, it's what you eat, live, breathe, sleep, etc. And as you scale, I mean, Andriana, you mentioned you guys are more than 200. I think Plato is more than 350. Those are big teams. That's big teams to manage. But somewhere in this middle, you had to start hiring good talent, but you didn't necessarily have the budgets yet, to attract the right talent. So what are some of your people philosophy? How did you attract the right talent? How did you retain the right talent? Just how did you manage the people?
So, yeah, like you said, at some point you have to get people as part of your team. You can only spread yourself this thin. And starting off by getting a generalist, someone who can basically take some tasks off of your hand, which you're not necessarily 100% needed for. So the first person that we got is someone who does our customer service emails and helped us fulfill our packages. This freed up my own hands to design more, Pierre's hands to look at the like our business growth and all of that, and our social media and everything. Like Pierre and I did every single aspect of our business that you can absolutely like think of. I know the two of you also run a beautiful fashion brand, so I know that you also went through this. And what's lovely actually about being the only people within your business is that you get to do every single thing. So you know exactly what it takes to run a social media. You know exactly what it takes to process photographs, design, run the warehouse for full packages. So first of all, you know the scope of work that your team needs to do, and you can always help them in a way. But also then you know exactly where the key pain points are. So our strategy was basically, I don't think it was so much of a strategy, it just happened because we only had a certain amount of money and we could only afford a generalist, for the lack of a better word. So that's the people that we started off with, people that we could mold into someone that we needed them to be. You know, we hired the person. We hired absolute, energetic, positive, wonderful people to help build this brand with us because they could basically be anyone that you needed them to be. And then you get your experts. Then as soon as you have a little bit more money and you can afford them, you get the people with the experience, with the degrees, with the, everything that you need from them. And then something very interesting happened. And I remember so well, it was a pivotal moment in my life in my business career, where I was the founder of a brand, knowing exactly where I want to take it. Getting these people into your business who are experts within what they do. They've worked for wonderful brands like Woolies and Sportsman's Warehouse, and they know their shit. And then they come in and you almost feel like, okay, they know more than me. I should do what they think we should do. But that's the important, integral, ons is almal Afrikaans hou. It's this super, super critical mind shift that you need to make, is taking these people with their expertise and their experience and guiding them within your brand. Because if you are then going to follow all of the different expertise that you bring into your business, you're going to drag your brand into so many different directions. You need to still stay true to who you are. You are the expert within your brand, within your customers, your business, and then bring these experts in and guide them in a way that's going to make both of you flourish. It's almost like a 1 + 1 = 3 equation, where you bring in yourself with your business experience, knowing exactly where you want to take the brand, bringing in their expertise, and together you make magic. That's basically the key thing for me and the people that we bring into our team. It's a very important mix to have, bringing in your absolute firecracker of these worker bees that will just do anything and everything for the brand, and they're just incredible. And then you get your experts, and they're just so incredible to learn from, and you can guide them, and together you just make magic. And it's I know I'm going on and on and on, but I'm so passionate about our team, and I'm so proud of all of them. And I just quickly want to segue a little bit into just staying on team. But I want to mention that one of the biggest joys in my entire life and building this business is seeing people grow. I have people within our team that started with us as interns and now leading incredible departments. And they've grown within themselves and their skills and everything. And they're teaching other people and taking juniors on within themselves and teaching them and how they love this brand as much as I do. And it's just the most incredible thing to see, where your employees become friends with each other. We've got teammates being bridesmaids at each other's weddings. And this community that we're building within the 4 walls of our office is where we make magic. And everyone believes in what we do, and everyone trusts each other within the roles that they take on. And they do that because they like each other and they are friends and they don't mind coming to a run on a Saturday, even though it is work, or they don't mind going to the comrades for the weekend because it's like expo weekend and they're working super hard, but they don't mind because they like their colleagues and they love what they do and just bring so much energy into what we do. So I said it earlier and I'll say it again, people, 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 and treating your employees and your customers as if they are your absolute most valuable asset, because that's exactly what they are.
I really love the insight of like hiring a generalist at the start and then experts. I think that is actually something that's so profound, you know, because I think a lot of the times you start a business and you think, I need a performance marketing specialist or this specialist, and it's actually a very, very interesting approach. And yeah, I mean, I think just the people comment is so true. So Plato is, you know, the same. What are your people philosophies?
That's a very good answer. I don't have anything to add. Yes, see. So I think just before I forget it, remember, IQ, I'm joking. Just on I think you have to have the humility to know somebody is better than you in certain stuff and let it go. So for instance, I think like a good CEO is vision, people, money. I'm not great with money, so I got a great CFO next to me, and I really trust him. So obviously there's a lot of tug and war, but because I'm not so strong, I'm a marketing, branding CEO. I'm not a corporate, classic CA. That, you know, so I still don't know what's gross profit. I'm joking. We just go. It's just fun. But anyway, I think with us, initially, I mean, we didn't have a CFO up until beginning of 2024. We only had a marketing team beginning of last year. I did everything up until that point. So looking at hindsight, maybe a bit earlier, but it's like we bootstrapped. So you don't have like extra resources and stuff. But I think what happened is we realized, because we're not coffee specialists, I remember we tried to poach Harry Moore. At that time, he was SA Barista champ working for Tribeca, which is the biggest roastery in the country. So we opened the cemetery shop, and we're like, Harry, do you want to join us? And he's like, sterk there. Anyway, Harry is our COO now. So I think what happened is, it's almost like you grow into it, eh? And then you have to say, okay, cool, certain people know better than me in certain areas. And I think what happened for us, it was so I think we were at like 500 kilograms a month, and then we were like, okay, cool, we have to start our own roastery, and we know like who needs to be a roaster. It was John Evans. He roasted for Tribeca, their specialty coffee, Asmara. You'll see it in Woolies, it's very bright. So once we got John Evans, I think people were like, okay, these guys are serious. And it was almost like a rippling effect. Then Harry joined XYZ. But I think, and I don't want to say people like, what do I want to say? Ek is baie moeilik om Afrikaans te dink en Engels te praat. I think our team is our greatest product, in a way. Not really, and our approach has always been, I think first, is this guy a lucky human being? Like I always tell that. Is he going to be a culture fit? If you're not lacquer at 25, you're not going to become lacquer. You're probably going to get worse as you age. So for me, you know, my approach is I can see that, and obviously, like I'm a bit of a cowboy. Like I do stuff like coffee, I can immediately see. But I think that's very important. It must be a culture fit, exactly like our franchise partners. If they're not a culture fit, nie ons damse gaanse nie, then no. So I think that's very important, the way you build your team. And then I think also make sure the ecosystem you create for them. I had this one friend who had this vision of a dam that was frozen, and he saw like a warm red element going into the dam, and then the dam, like the pond, it's more like a pond. It melted, so the fishes swam and the plants grew. And basically what he said, I'm the element. I must make sure like people flourish in the ecosystem. So I think if you can create that, then people buy into your brand, they buy into the story. They're not just the employee, they build together. And I think if you can do that, and I think somebody asked me the other day, what's like the one piece of advice I can give to people? If you treat people the way you want to be treated, you can take that to anything. Employees, suppliers. Do you want to be paid late? No, so pay people on time. Do you want to not have lunch, like an hour lunch, so give you whatever the case. But I think if you can take that and just take it through your business, you're going to have a lacquer pond, and people are going to swim, the fishes are going to swim, the plants are going to grow. So it's very important to create that culture, I think. And then, what happens is, it's like a ripple effect. It's almost like a word of mouth. That's what happened when John, now he can tell Harry, no, these guys they're okay, you can join. And it almost created this ripple effect, yeah.
No, amazing. Thank you both. Rudolf, just touching on the messy middle, I think a big part of what happened at that time, or in that phase, is you guys actually start making good gross revenue, gross profit, and you suddenly have a bit of money, and then it's hard because you're so used to putting everything that you've made into this business, but at some point, how do you start thinking about paying yourself, rewarding yourself? How do you think about de-risking yourself so that you actually have some personal finances, in case something happens to the business? So what would be just your advice for this messy middle from a financial point of view?
I think it's important to, what you touched on, having a vision. It's like, where's this business going and what does it require? So if we're in the phase where we need people, because people matter and they actually make this vision a reality, we need to pay them. So we need to keep money back to actually get the next person that'll help us grow and accelerate. But at the same time, I also started this business with maybe some ideas to make some money, right? We can be real about that. We wouldn't leave a nice salary to go broke. That doesn't make any sense. So then we need to balance, we need to at some point in time make sure that we're also moving the needle on our personal financial planning and our personal finances. And then decisions become important, like, do I take just my business bank card and swipe it to buy groceries? Not a good idea. Your accountants will tell you don't do that. Why? Because it puts pressure on the organization, and it doesn't create enough of a separation between myself and my business, because they're not the same thing. And then you would think about, am I going to draw a salary? I'll just take what's in the bank account. But then what about the product that you need to buy? If I didn't plan for it, how am I going to actually pay my supplier in time? So there needs to be a clear plan and strategy, even if it's small. I think it's habits that we build that will serve us over the long term. So then we think about, we're drawing some salaries and we are paying pay-as-you-earn tax, which you need to do. And we're starting to pay VAT, which is wonderful and terrible because it means you've got good revenue, but you're also paying away some money. So then all of these things become challenges, and it forces us to make more decisions. You spoke about decisions right at the start, and we become so decision fatigued, where our decisions become poorer because we need to make them so often. So we start making them on autopilot, and decisions on autopilot are terrible decisions. That's why we take out our phones while we drive. You didn't intentionally do that. It's habit. So we need to be clear on what is the plan, and say, how do we move the organization forward to make sure it reaches its milestones, but I still get what I want out of this business, which is financial freedom, not having a boss. It's for who would say that's why you would start a business? I think a lot of you would agree. So then we say, if I want to then have that financial freedom, I at some point in time need to make sure the business is doing okay, but what about me? So then we need to start think about our salary structures, or are we taking dividends? But that's got a different tax implication. So even though it can get complicated quite quickly, it doesn't have to be, because if there's a vision, it's all about just executing those steps. And de-risking is, I think, quite underrated when you have your own business, because yes, you need to have delusional self-belief and you need to back yourself, but at some point in time it becomes irresponsible of leaving every single rand and cent within the organization, because challenges come. I mean, it would have been a very different outcome if you didn't operate in level 4B of COVID, okay? End of Plato. So then, at least if you had some personal backing outside of the organization, then you would have gone, I can actually weather the storm. I've got some sort of money in the business, and I've got some money personally. So if I need to put money back in, I can. Otherwise, that vision comes to an end quite quickly. And again, it doesn't have to be grand plans. It's just got to be things that make sense. And again, there's people you can employ for that. There's people that you can get in to play that vital role. Just like you would hire a CFO within your business, you can also hire a CFO in your personal capacity. And they get the right people that you trust that can help you make those decisions, because often these decisions are those blind spot elements. Because I just see it over here. So you miss everything else, and sometimes they can come back to bite you. And if you just have the right team in place, people that you trust, and they can give you really great advice. And then you can start building up your personal net worth as well as you keep building the business's wealth and actually sort of gravitas as you continue expanding. And you see that with any successful CEO of any business, especially if they're listed, you can see it quite clearly because they've got to declare shares that they sell within the organization. And nobody would ever look at a CEO and go, well, oh, does that mean if you're selling your Standard Bank shares as the CEO of Standard Bank that you no longer believe in the organization? No, but I cannot have every single piece of my wealth, the Afrikaans saying, well, I don't know if it's actually an English saying, you guys are burning me over. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like there's sense to that because it allows you to just take some of the pressure off and say, okay, now I don't have to have the business actually at every single milestone, every single month. The business can actually go sideways because we have winter. We've got seasons where we've got downturn. So then in that scenario, well, it's okay if I can't draw my full salary or take a divvy this month because I've got some money of my own. And again, it changes how you make decisions within your business.
No, absolutely. So we've run out of a bit of time, so we're going to get to the last question, and I think this is the most important one. I do want to just quickly read both brands' visions to you because I think it's so profound. So Bernd's vision, and I hope it's still relevant, but to be the greatest global brand to ever come from South Africa. And Plato said they want to be Africa's most loved lifestyle brand. So I'm not sure. Confirm? No? Okay. Cool.
It's now the world.
Did you get that from Chatties?
We got it from the website. So the question is, and maybe please comment on that, because what we want to find out is both of you have built a brand that has the ability to be a legacy. It's not just a business. It's not just, people using a product. It's people believing in your product. It's people working for you that wants to work for you for the next, however long. You guys are building a legacy. So to end off with, what do you want that legacy to be? What is that vision that you want to last? And please also then add any last thoughts to the audience of what you want them to take away from tonight. Andriana, you start.
Okay. It's such a big question, an open-ended question, because it almost feels like where we are now towards the future is where we were 7 years ago towards now. It's almost impossible to answer. But what we are working towards is basically, first of all, staying true to who we are and why we started the brand, and staying loyal and true to our customers, and bringing them the absolute best quality products that we ever can. But more than that, is we want to ensure that we are the trusted activewear brand within the global market that you choose for something like race day. I told Pia earlier today that the biggest compliment that someone can ever give to me and the products that we create is that, say, for example, someone is running a marathon. They've spent 16, 18, even longer weeks training towards this race. And on race day, there are so many uncontrollables. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control whether you get a stitch or not. You cannot control whether someone might fall in front of you or whatever it may be. But the one thing you can control is the clothing that you're going to wear. And if people choose us to make us part of their success for something that they've been working on for such a long time, and they think, okay, I don't have to worry about my activewear is going to bring me to the finish line and the goal that I wanted it to reach. Making that choice and making that choice us is the biggest compliment that I can ever ask for. Me being a runner, knowing how hard you work towards a personal goal, it's just the biggest compliment ever. And it's not only within the race environment. It's not only for people who run races or train towards something like that. If you have a horrible day and you just want to go for a yoga and you decide, I'm going to wear my burnt active wear because it makes me feel confident, it doesn't roll down or sag down, and it makes me feel supported in anything. I'm going to choose burnt for this activity and it's going to make me feel better. That is the biggest compliment ever. And then drawing that into the rest of your life, because obviously it's not mutually exclusive. We are all active in some sense of the word and we all bring it into our everyday lives. And if we can play a part into making you feel good, making you feel confident, healthy, looking after yourself, whatever that may be, and we are your brand of choice, that is success to me. That is all I want. I want people to choose us for the days that they want to feel the absolute best.
Okay, klap hande. Yes, it's a loaded question, especially the legacy part. So for me, Plato, and I think when you talked about purpose, just especially for myself as well, I think there's nothing that gives me more joy. So our groups, you see Plato, but there's a bunch of stuff in there. Our group's name is called Slingshot, and it gives me so much joy to share Plato with people. And I think if I can, at the end of my life, see Plato or Slingshot or the group, to say like, listen, we played a small part in somebody's life, and we could slingshot them in the right direction. And that is the legacy. Like, I've got a very eternal outlook on Plato. I mean, if you look at my boys, legacy, like for me, when I make choices, it's like where your heart is, there your treasure will be. And go Google it, go see who said that. But for me, that is my outlook on Plato. So people will say, why another shop? Why more money? Why whatever? For me, it's not about that. It's like, am I making impact? Am I creating another job? Is somebody, pivoting? I mean, we get incredible stories. That's on the, call it entrepreneurial side, really making people on people's lives. I mean, if you look at Plato, we've created just on baristas about 750 jobs. I mean, that's probably the most practical thing you can just do in South Africa, right? So that's the first thing I think. On the client side, I always tell our baristas, you make somebody's day and then you sell them coffee. And I think that is our outlook. That is like, people just want to belong. And if we can just make somebody's day, I don't care about the coffee really, because the GP is irrelevant. But it's really to have that eternal outlook on Plato. And I mean, Plato is much bigger than me. Like, I must steward it correctly. And hopefully it will last even when I'm not here. So I think, that's maybe a bit deep answer for the last
Making me look shallow
question.
here, speaking about our products.
But I'm obviously thinking of my boys, and it's like a generational thing. I don't want to sell it, make a quick buck, right? It's a bit of a different, I think, outlook. Because I've got boys, and maybe, well, hopefully they'll also think it's cool. But that's my story.
No, I love it. And I think for both of you, you guys are both building a brand that already has a legacy. And the fact that both brands are so young, and you can already start thinking about legacy, and thinking about that generational impact that it will have, that says so much about the businesses that you've built. Adriana, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I actually do. It's crazy how you get to this point and you have so much to say and you almost feel like, oh, I forgot I wanted to say this and this and this, but you just sparked something in my mind where I now mentioned, or you mentioned our vision of becoming the greatest global brand to come out of South Africa. And I just kind of want to highlight the South Africa part and what you just mentioned where, I don't know, a lot of my peers went overseas to Amsterdam or London or whatever after varsity, looking for greener pastures somewhere else. And something that I'm really proud of brands like Plato, Freedom of Movement, for example, Me&B, is basically we're putting everything that we have into South Africa, into our country, our people, our economy. And, all of our brands started in a time where it was a little bit unsure, in the market and in the economy and everything that we lived in. And I think it just goes to show that if you do something with pure intentions, with your country and your community and the people around you at heart, you can really make magic. And you mentioned the amount of baristas that you have, and a company like us, we have over 200 employees, and sometimes it really hits home to me to think that I am responsible for over 200 families, putting food on their table and, helping them send the kids to school. And it's a massive responsibility and something that's scary at some points, It's a flippin' massive responsibility, but it's the biggest honor ever. I mean, having people choose us to build their careers, for example, or choosing us to support their family, and it just makes me really proud that brands like yourself, what we decided to invest into our country and our country's future. And I think South Africans see that, and there's nothing that South Africans are not, if not resilient, and we back our boykies, we know that, and we've seen that with the brands. I mean, we cannot be who we are without our customers and our staff, and I think it's because South Africans love South Africans, and it's just a really proud moment to be in a room like this today, to sit next to someone else who built a business within South Africa, within challenges that we have, and really, we're building something within our country that we love so much.
I think that is the note to end off with. Thank you so much. So,
Ek het niks beter om te sê.
yeah.
Jy het altyd 'n grapjie om te vertel, jy kan maar.
Thank you both so much for joining us on the panel. Rudolf, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone being here. I'm going to hand over to Rudolf just to close out the night.
Wonderful. So what a night. First and foremost, a massive thank you to all of you for actually being here. A community like Wealth Lab only exists because people like you choose to show up and be part of the conversation. So thank you for being part of the conversation. And hopefully there's a lot of conversations that's going to happen throughout the rest of the evening. One final massive round of applause to our panelists, please. Stefan from Plato, Andriana from Burnt, and then our absolutely wonderful moderator, Danny. Thank you. Thank you for the candor, for being so open and honest about the hard-earned lessons behind the wins. And then an event like this doesn't happen overnight or in a moment. Just want to celebrate our teams. Thank you to the Fiskal Finance team and to my team, Firecrest, for putting it together and for just building this community. It really matters. And now, the formal part of the evening might be over, but the conversations are just beginning. So there are some New York bagels to snack on, and the bar is still open. So grab a drink, stay around to connect, and let's keep building the community together.